multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little.
Hello, Peter.
The Spider-Man No Way Home trailer is finally here, and it was actually pretty great. I'm pretty pleased.
When Mysterio revealed my identity, my entire life got screwed up. I was wondering if maybe you could make it so that he never did.
A Doctor Strange Spider-Man team-up is perfect. I love that Peter goes to Sanctum Sanctorum, thus driving the plot.
The entire world is about to forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Wait, everyone? Oh.
A Doctor Strange Spidey team-up is something that I've always really wanted to see, and I think we're going to get it in spades.
Please, we're safe to have the universe together. I think we're beyond you calling me sir.
Steven.
That feels weird, but I'll allow it.
The worst kept secret since time travel in Avengers 4 has finally been revealed. Alfred Molina, one of many returning villains in the movie.
Butterfingers.
Coming from the Raimi universe alongside Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin.
Back to formula.
And hopefully it seems like, although not yet confirmed, although basically confirmed, Sandman, Lizard, and Jamie Foxx's Electro. I mean, Jamie Foxx is confirmed. I think he confirmed even before Molina. I'm not going to be blue in this one. I'm very excited to see all these villains come back. It seems like a cool way to do a Sinister Six. They've stumbled so many times in the past with the Drew Goddard version, with the Amazing Spider-Man series, so bringing them from previous movies makes sense to me, and it's a cool way of doing like an Avengers level threat. It's also a good chance to do villains like Lizard and Electro better. I like that Jamie Foxx is going to be like blue and weird and dorky. It seems like he's going to be an actual menace.
You're no Spider-Man. He's a Leo. You're a Sagittarius. You will Spectrum again. I'm gonna rip your well-groomed head off.
And he's going to have the orange lightning, which is great. Now we just need to get Lizard in the fucking lab coat. Maybe some torn trousers. All of the villains returning is a cool premise for a multiversal Spider-Man movie, and it establishes a credible threat that you would need 3 spiders for. The only problem I have with it is that it threatens to undo the redemption arcs of previous Raimi villains, most notably Doctor Otto Octavius. I'd also say to a lesser extent, Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman could also be in trouble. This isn't necessarily a problem for all of the villains. Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin coming back makes a lot of sense to me. The character is always coming back from the dead in the comics and faking his own death, and he's highly duplicitous, so to see him die before and find his way back to reality, that stays in line. And it just feels neat that the very, very first villain in the first cinematic Spider-Man film should be the villain they face when they all come together, right? A lot of the Raimi villains sort of straddle the line between good and evil, and there's moments where they can often be redeemed or we can feel empathy for them. That's what makes them such great villains. Whilst the Green Goblin does have a sympathetic side, ultimately he straddles the line closer to evil.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
But he oscillates between the two right until his final moment.
Don't tell Harry.
So to see him come back and go full evil, I don't think is too much of a heel turn. And also, he's Spider-Man's #1 big bad. He's like Spider-Man's Joker. So if you're going to have multiverse Spider-Man, I think he's the best guy for the job. I would love to see Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin let loose like he does at the end of Spider-Man 1 in what is one of the best superhero hand-to-hand fight scenes ever. I could do a video just on that scene alone. It's brutal, it makes him feel absolutely invincible. And of course, it's absolutely epic when Spider-Man does beat him. And then of course there's this lovely emotional texture to it as well at the end.
Be a son to me now.
I have a father. His name was Ben Parker.
Godspeed, Spider-Man. Molina has always been very candid about the movie.
Butterfingers.
It was quite some time ago now when he said that his character would continue his story right from where we left off, in the river. Which would say to me that even though some people are speculating it might be a variant version, I think we're going to get the exact same characters from the previous movies ported over to this universe. We are continuing the story from 2004 in a way that we didn't think was ever going to happen. And of course that is the only thing that really makes any sense. Because if you're going to bother bringing back Dafoe and Thomas Hayden Church and Jamie Foxx, but you're going to make them variants, not quite the versions we got before, just so that you can free up continuity, you might as well not have bothered. So part of the challenge of bringing back these villains is they all need to come back in a way that is interesting, that pushes the main Peter as a character, and doesn't betray their original character arcs in the Raimi and Webb movies. I think that's more or less simple with characters like Electro, the Lizard, and of course the Green Goblin. Doctor Otto Octavius famously uttered the words, "I will not die a monster," at the end of Spider-Man 2. His redemption arc is one of the sweetest moments in the entire Raimi trilogy.
A privilege. These things have turned you into something you're not.
He is driven by a need for knowledge and science and to help other people, but he becomes so obsessed by his ideals and by his need to succeed
It was my dream.
that he becomes blinded to the hurt he's going to cause others.
To do what's right, we have to be steady and give up the thing we want the most. Even our dreams.
In the end, it is Peter that reiterates the words his mentor had taught him.
You once spoke to me about intelligence. That it was a gift to be used for the good of mankind.
Doctor Octopus is obviously a full-blown villain in the comics, but the character in Raimi's movie is a little bit different.
Listen to me now.
You could argue either way whether or not he's truly a villain or whether or not he's just completely controlled by the electronic arms. They do seem to sway him a lot in one direction, or at least bring out that darker side to him. But ultimately what works about Octavius in Spider-Man 2 is that he is redeemable, and that he can ultimately trust Peter, and he can do something to right the wrongs that he has done across the movie. He relinquishes his dreams, but he regains his soul before he dies. And this was a time when comic book movies would do a lot of one and done villains. It wasn't world building to a million different spin-offs, so it made sense to kill off the character. Presumably if Sony knew many years later they would want to bring all these characters back and have 3 Spider-Men running around, they never would have killed off any villains. But here we are. I don't necessarily mind Doctor Octopus being resurrected, or his life being saved. You thought he was going to drown and then a portal opens up or whatever and transports him to that universe, and it turns out it saves him. Whatever. The why of how he gets to Tom Holland's Peter's universe is not important to me. What is important to me is maintaining that character arc from the absolutely perfect second Raimi movie. Because if you undo that and you make him go back to his villainous ways without a satisfying reason, or in a way that made it worth our time for the character to come back, then that's going to be really sore. Because it's not just like, here's this second appearance of Doctor Octavius, isn't that great? If it's shit or if it betrays the arc set up in Spider-Man 2, then it will actively take the sheen off of that character. And sure, you could just watch Spider-Man 2 in isolation, but that will always be the canon version, that he came back and then continued his evil ways, and that whole "I will not die a monster" was really null and void within about 15 minutes. It's that Emperor Palpatine Rise of Skywalker problem again.
No one's ever really gone.
You can't have Vader kill off Palpatine, the whole point of his destiny, and then resurrect Palpatine years later. Anakin killing the Emperor means ultimately nothing, and I would hate for the same thing to happen to Peter managing to redeem Otto Octavius in Spider-Man 2. Sure, I want to see Doc Ock wreck in town. I want to see him pull the legs off that measly Stark Tech suit. I am sick of it. I am so sick of that suit. It has outstayed its welcome, truly. It was fun for the Infinity Wars, but I mean, I don't think it should have even been in Far From Home. So the fact it's still in No Way Home annoys me. For fuck's sake, Otto needs to grab all 4 arms and just just rip them off. Just throw that suit in the trash. Please, Otto, please. What I'm saying is, I recognise that people want Otto to show up, they want him to battle Spider-Man or Spider-Men, and they want full-blown evil Otto Octavius. So how do you do that without portraying Spider-Man 2? Well, I think the only way you can really feasibly do it is by making him a double agent.
Yes.
We can assume a couple of things. The Green Goblin will probably be the leader of the Sinister Six and will be the one galvanising all the villains together. He will have some sort of evil plan, which would go against the morality of Spider-Man or anyone who is aligned to him. And so we can all agree that wherever Spider-Man's goals are, they are good in the paradigm of this script, which I have not read, which is coming out in December. And whatever Green Goblin is going to do is something bad, presumably to the multiverse. The spell goes wrong, Doctor Strange and Peter fuck it up, the villains come through, but let's say Doctor Strange and Peter realise we can't take the Sinister Six together. The key to stopping these villains is by doing another spell, this time with a purpose. We need to get the other Spider-Men. Maybe they'll not only have expertise in catching and stopping them, but they'll be able to give us the extra manpower we need. Let's say Strange says that this spell is even harder than the last one and even more dangerous, but the risk is that worth it. They begin the spell, and Green Goblin and Otto Octavius and the rest of the Sinister Six descend on the Sanctum. It is an all-out assault, and Spider-Man is the only one holding it all together while Strange is busy concocting the spell. Tom Holland's Spider-Man holds his own, but eventually the Sinister Six proves too much for both Peter and for Doctor Strange before he can finish the spell. It's fucked. They can't do it again, and Green Goblin has won, and he has stopped them from bringing in the other Spider-Men, and now he has free reign to complete his evil plan. Except, all along, Doctor Otto Octavius, he never wanted to renounce his good ways before he died, but he recognised that the Sinister Six would surely murder him under Norman's orders if he'd not agreed to come with them. He thought that he would be better put to use, using his intellect behind the scenes, coming up with a way to reverse engineer the portal that brought him through to this world using science, in a way to get back the Peters from their respective universes. So you thought Doctor Strange was going to be the one to do it, you thought it was going to be magic, it ends up being science, and it's Otto Octavius. Why do I think this would work? Well, during the movie, you can play the bad Doc Ock, you can have him fight Tom Holland and even sell the punches, because remember, he's got to make it look real to the rest of the Sinister Six. But you can also have fun little details for a rewatch, like, oh, Doc Ock's thrown Peter over there. That was a weird strategy. Of course, now that we're rewatching it, we know he probably did that because Electro was about to fry him, and it was a good time to get him away from the battle. He's basically Snape. You get the character as a bad guy until he's suddenly not, and you feel silly for thinking he could have been bad this whole time. Oh, that dang spider slipped through my fingers again, Norman. Silly me. I'm still evil though. Obviously in the movie he's doing it in a more dramatic way. I think this would be great for Norman and Otto's relationship. In something like the Spider-Man PS4 game, I really like that they try and intertwine the characters' histories.
That look on your face. You can't imagine how satisfying it is.
If you're going to bring back two of the Raimi villains, and you want to do something that's not been done before, and they both existed in separate films and we never saw them cross paths, I think it would be awesome to give them a really cool relationship. If you're going to bring back a villain from a previous Spider-Man movie, we need to see something from them that we've not seen before, and the relationships they have with other characters needs to feel fresh. So if Norman was in the first Spider-Man movie and Ock was in the second, and they never interacted, and now you're bringing them into a movie, they need to do more than just look at each other and go, look, Spider-Man's over there, let's get him. I want to see like a considered relationship between them cultivated across the movie. And perhaps based on previous history that we don't know about in the Raimi universe. I think the two of them should have a bit of a superiority complex between each other. I think Norman should think he's the superior intellect, which is why I think it would make total sense for not only Otto to be backstabbing him on a moral level, but him to also prove that he is smarter by tricking him the whole time. So the whole time Norman thought that Otto was on his side trying to kill the Spider-Men, really he's been trying to reverse engineer a way to get Tom Holland's Peter the help he needs. Because he still believes in Peter Parker.
I will not die a monster.
With that, Otto brings the remaining Spider-Men to this world. But before he can do that and be reunited with Tobey Maguire's Peter, Norman slays him. And I think it should be an absolute murder. Just to re-establish that you can trick the Green Goblin, but he is tenacious. He will crawl out of the hole from which you put him, and he will return bigger and stronger. I could also go for a really bittersweet scene where Tom Holland's Spider-Man tells Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man what his Otto did and his sacrifice to get them there to save the universe. And I think in turn, like, Peter could be proud of Otto for doing what he did. And as much as we would all like them to have a rematch, I think it would actually be way more effective that they never meet and that Tobey Maguire's Peter finds out about his sacrifice in retrospect. Plus, you can't top that train sequence for a tugboat Ock one-on-one, so don't even try!
Perfection. 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 Perfection.
You could get your evil Doc Ock a multitude of ways, but a lot of them just feel like they would be a cheat to me. Mind control and amnesia would make the return of Doc Ock feel arbitrary, as if bringing back that version of the character doesn't matter at all. It seems like you either make him evil and you go back on what you did in Spider-Man 2, or you do the redemption arc again, which would feel weak, I think. It's redundant. So in my humble opinion, I think a good, clean way to keep the character intact while still getting your money's worth is to reveal his true allegiances lie with Peter Parker. It doesn't have to happen as specifically as I suggested, and given the fact the script will veer off in 100 different directions we don't know about, it is highly unlikely to happen, but I would be happy if we got something along these lines at least. No matter what, John Watts and the team, they need to find a way to have their Doc Ock cake and eat it too. Doc Ock could just turn out to be evil in No Way Home and still give an absolutely entertaining turn as a member of the Sinister Six, but something about it will feel incredibly shallow if his philosophical journey in his first appearance is not addressed. Either way, I'm incredibly excited for Spider-Man No Way Home, and I hope it manages to keep its theatrical December release date. Sony are committed to upholding the cinematic experience, rather than woefully dumping their projects onto streaming for a same-day release. I will be there on opening night with my popcorn and mixed Tango Ice Blast. God, they're so damn good, because the return of Dafoe, The Friend, and the mighty tugboat is simply too important to watch in your living room.
Oh boy, yeah.
Here's hoping that everyone from their respective worlds are given a movie worthy of the series that started it all. What do you think? Should Doc Ock remain good in Spider-Man No Way Home? Do you think he's going to be evil temporarily and get redeemed? Do you think he's going to go full tilt evil and that's going to be him for the rest of the movie? Do you think they're going to reference his redemption in any way? And do you think they should? Do you agree with me, and do you think he should keep his character arc intact from Spider-Man 2? Or do you not care and just want to see some tentacles? Weirdo. And by the way, if you liked any of the photoshops used in this video, then please follow me on Instagram at full_fat_videos, or you can follow me on Twitter at fullfatvideos. And if you like these videos and you'd like to see more and you'd like to support me, then please consider subscribing with notification bells on. Switch on. So you get the notification. So you sit on my video and watch it. I'm not going to do these hands again. A big personal thank you to our Full Fat tier patrons, Dr. Chike, Jax Merrick, and Cyrus Solker. Your ongoing support keeps the lights on. Until next time, keep it full fat.